Rick? This is Damian Macy, the Friends of the Library, and I'm working with our oral history project today to interview Lester Strohm, a longtime resident of this area living in West Union. And with that, I'm going to introduce you to Lester.
Hello, this is Lester Strohm. Can we just continue?
Yeah.
Okay. I was born in York Township, about 4.5 miles east of West Union, in the river bottom. Had two sisters, Virginia and Joyce. They were a little older than I was. We lived there for five years. When I was born, we were all born in a home. And the reason we moved from the river bottom to, my dad bought 40 acres off Bill Mackey. And that's where I was continued living the rest of my life at home. Vernon Nellie Mae Hilbert had a Jeep that they picked us up at the top of the river bottom, so we had to walk about a mile to get on it, and they took us to brick one-room schoolhouse. And I
Excuse me.
went there for 4 years, and they taught all 8 grades.
Do you remember any of your teachers' names?
Yes, I do. My first grade teacher was Myrtle Haddix. And my second, third, and fourth grade teacher was Margaret Rhodes, Thurman Rhodes' wife.
What was her first name?
Margaret Rhodes.
Okay.
She was a sister to Mary Mackey, Arnold's wife. And back in those days, we went to movies every Saturday night at West Union. We had a movie theater till I was 16. And of course, one of the things they had on almost every Saturday night was the Three Stooges and Moe, Shep, and Larry. And so Moe was always banging Shep and Larry's head together. So when I was in the 4th grade, Jim Hilbert and Max Manhart was in the 1st grade, I told them I wanted to tell them a little story, and I cracked their heads together, and they both wore glasses, but they didn't break their glasses. Of course, they both cried, and I thought, they don't do that in the Three Stooges. But our teacher, Margaret Rose, got me by the ear and took me in the schoolhouse and banged my head against the piano, and asked me how I felt. Of course, I didn't feel very good, but I just happened to remember that story.
Were those movies more slated towards a lot of the Westerns and Gene Autry and Roy Rogers?
Well, a lot of Westerns, but this was something like a short subject or a cartoon they had ahead of the movie. Then they had a serial, 15-part serial, but you about had to come every Saturday night or you were going to miss part. Because that was a part of the plan. And I don't remember what it cost. Probably cost 15 cents to go to the theater. Then my wife Mary said that Marshall was only 9 cents, so maybe we weren't. Maybe that's all it was there. I just can't remember that.
Can you kind of describe that movie theater? I think it was on the south side.
No, actually it was on the north side.
Oh, okay.
And the building, part of the building is still there. It used to be a tar shop after the theater. I quit having the theater when I was 16. And they made it into a tar shop. But it would seat probably 300 people. Ooh. And it was sloped, so everybody had a good seat. And I remember one time my dad and mom were going out for dinner, which they didn't do very often, and they left me with my grandma Strohm, who lived right in West Union, just right across from the Burton Press Funeral Home, in one house west. But so they left me there. And of course, back in those days, every kid in the country went barefooted and without a shirt. I did have a shirt on, but I was barefooted when they left me off like 4 o'clock. And it was Saturday night. And of course, she let me go to the movie, but my dad and mom forgot my shoes. And I mean, I was devastated because I was going to have to go barefooted to the movies. Like all those poor kids in West Union. I couldn't have been over 9 or 10, but it really was upsetting.
You're self-conscious, doesn't it?
I mean, I went anyway, but nobody looked at me and pointed their finger at me. But I got this one.
In that going to school, what was the name of the school? Was it a West Union school?
No, actually, a brick. You know where a brick church is?
Okay.
Right across west of there was a one-room schoolhouse, probably 100 yards from the church. And bringing that up, we had Bible school there when we were kids growing up, and one day at Bible school was Bill and Larry Haddix, and Jerry Strohm was a couple of years older. Larry was a year older, Bill was 3 years older, and Bill he'd go out to Snyder's store and tell him he wanted a pack of cigarettes for his Uncle Edgar Morris. Of course, I don't know, they sold them to him, and of course he was probably 12 maybe. And anyway, one day at recess from Bible school, we went over to the outhouse at the school, and we were all in there smoking, and Maxine Balkman came out on the porch of the church, looked over there, smoke was rolling out under the eave, and she ran over there thinking it was on fire. And we were all in there smoking. And I don't remember we got in trouble or not, but it was just like this. It's funny how you remember
Those
certain
things.
things.
And that's exactly what we're talking about. I know you didn't have a school bus to get to school either then, did you?
Well, I was telling you, Burnham and May Hilbert, somehow they hired the people, I think Frank Lippix, he lived right a little bit north on the River Road, and Shirley O'Rourke, which is Shirley Murphy.
Yeah.
And I think my parents evidently paid them to do that, because I think we was only like 3 or 4 kids they picked up. But they picked us up every day and brought us home, which is a big savings for our parents, of course.
And you didn't have a cafeteria service there
No,
either,
we
did you?
always took our lunch.
You remember what Mom fixed you for?
He used peanut butter and jelly, I think, was about
Pretty common.
almost every day. I don't know, because I liked it so much. Wasn't any reason not to. And I don't know, just the way it was.
Can you kind of describe that school? I'm sure there was a
It was,
blackboard across the front and probably pictures of
one room.
maps.
It had a cloakroom and a stove and a front porch. And we learned our ABCs and had sound out, and we were pretty good at spelling, because I don't think they teach that so much anymore. Teach your sounds of A's and long A and short A. And anyway, spelling was one of my best subjects. Of course, the teacher taught all 8 grades and taught right in front of everybody. So if you were caught up on yours, you
Listen in.
and Myrtle Haddix tried to get my mom and dad to let me skip 1 grade because I was kind of ahead. But when I had all 4 years of grade school, I had 3 girls in my class: Martha Foreman, Charlotte Ferris, Shirley Rory. And one semester, there was a couple moved in right east of where my dad and mom lived, and they had a boy. And so he was in one semester. I had a boy in my class. So that was...
So you were the popular one then, right?
Well, because I had all 8 grades. So,
Yeah.
I was just there. I don't know how many kids were actually in the school. I remember Bob Copper and Betty Copper and June Copper, Phil and Larry Haddix, Elaine Lippix, Jim Bonesteel, Rex Bonesteel, he just died. And my 2 older sisters, Virginia and Joyce and May.
Les, do you recall some of the things you did at recess?
Yeah.
There were not a lot of organized things.
Actually, we entertained ourselves. I don't think the teacher probably was out there some, but we played handy over the school building, just softball.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember how it worked. If you caught the ball, you'd run around and try to tag somebody or hit them with the ball. I don't remember which it was. And we played black man, and we played, and I thought it was stink base, but maybe it was. We had a softball team, and we played Old York. And Old York had Don and Gene Darty, and that's all they really needed, because Gene was a hell of a pitcher. And of course, we didn't have that many boys in school, so when we played them, I was in the 3rd grade, and I played third base, which I'd never played third base. And I'm behind the bag, and somebody hit a line drive, hit the bag, hit me right in the eye. I had a huge shiner. But that was all it did. But
do you recall, did you have things like swings, merry-go-rounds?
yeah, we did have,
something?
we had swings and a pull-up bar, that's all. And teeter-totter, one teeter-totter.
So you had to generate your own activities?
Yeah, and the teeter-totter had square nuts on the both to hold it on the pipe. And I was trying to slide down the board, slipped and fell, hit my head. Of course, the blood just had I can show you a little scar right there. Anyway, and I remember one day I was sitting in a swing. I had a lollipop. And some reason or other, that chain broke in that swing, and it didn't hurt me, but it broke by a lollipop all to pieces. So I remember that. It just... But I always rode the school bus in the 5th grade on. I don't think I was really supposed to go to Marshall until 7th grade, but that's when they consolidated. Yeah. And of course I like sports, and my dad talked to Mr. Bush, and of course he was originally from West Union, and he said, now the bus stops and gets Virginia and Joyce, why don't you just let Lester go, because he wants to play sports. Of course, Mr. Bush likes sports too, and nothing was ever said about it. Nobody complained about it, but like a lot of my friends that didn't get to go till 7th grade, but it did help me in sports, because I played all the sports.
Lester, at home, did you have some particular errands and things or chores that you had to do?
We raised pigs, and I had to scoop corn to the pigs, maybe scoop a load of corn. Thought about that. I had a little narrow bed pickup, and I was out of Jack and Jerry Strohm. Jerry was 2 years older, and Jack was 5 years older, and they were about the same age as my sisters. And I was out there one day, and they had an old ton truck, and they had to scoop a load of corn, and so of course I was there, and I just went with them and helped them. And they had a pretty good hill there right west of Route 1, and they didn't have a governor on the truck, so they couldn't go real fast, but they backed down this hill as fast as they could, slammed on the brakes, and all the corn slid out on the ground. And so, of course, I paid real good attention, so when I got home, the next time I hauled on the corn, we didn't have the hill, but we had a pretty fast pickup, and when I backed up, slammed on the brakes, everything went out except what was around the fender well. My dad saw me. Oh, he said, what the hell do you think you're doing? I said, well, that's what Jack and Jerry did. And about a week or two later, I get home from school, and I see him out there all over the corner, they did the same thing I was doing. So he thought that must have been a pretty good idea.
A lot easier than scooping, wasn't it?
Yeah, you had to scoop it all, but you didn't have to scoop it all. It was funny.
Did you pass that hint along to any others?
No, I don't think so, because I was the youngest, so I didn't.
Did you have a pet back along the way?
Yeah, we always had a dog. Last it seemed like, of course, we never chained their dogs up, and almost every one of them got run over by a school bus, because they always chased the school bus. So we just get another one and get it going. And that was my pet, I remember.
Your movement, you mentioned the school and then coming into Marshall, was that a big change?
Oh my gosh, yeah, I had 30 kids in my class, and of course I had a lot of boys in my class, so we played basketball and recess and softball, because we always played the North School, and that was a big deal to beat them in softball. And then we had intramural basketball, so I did get a start pretty early in basketball and sports, but
Les, were you at the South School?
South
when you
School.
Came into school?
yeah, evidently everybody south or out 40 maybe went to South School.
One time, I think that was the dividing line.
Actually, the first day I came to Marshall, they took me to North School, and Mrs. Irving was a teacher, and she takes the roll and says, "You don't belong here, you're supposed to be in South School." So he loaded me up, took me to South School, and I enjoyed that.
Who was your teacher at the South School?
Mrs. Melton was I think her name was Gertrude, but Mrs. Melton, 5th grade teacher. Bill Arney, first year teaching, 6th grade teacher. And he was real good with kids, because he went back to school after he got out of the Navy, I think, and went on a GI Bill, and then that was his first year teaching, and so he'd always come out and play ball with us. We just thought he was
Great.
and he was. I mean,
Any particular features you remember about that old school? I know it was a large 2-story building. As a matter of fact, it stood there for many years.
there's a lot of, of course, those are the only 2 I actually had, because I didn't go to 5th grade, but there's Miss 2 Friedenberger, Helen, and, oh gosh, Ruth, yeah. Mm-hmm. And so I really wasn't around them much, except maybe when I rode to the cafeteria, they would be in charge of discipline on the bus or something like that. So I didn't really know them, real well. Just knew of them mainly. But,
Do you kind of remember any of the features about the school itself? I know it's a 2-story building.
we were on the north side, east side, the upstairs in 5th grade, and we were on the south side upstairs on the 6th grade. And the restrooms were in the basement, and I had something happen when I was in 5th grade. Of course, I don't know if you're going to put this in the paper or not, but Elizabeth Klaus was in my class, and she had 2 right thumbs, and it wasn't the cutest girl I ever saw. But anyways, one day out on the playground, and I thought I could run pretty fast, but she ran me down and kissed me. I thought I would surely die.
I can just see that.
And I thought I was pretty fast till that happened. I thank God that was the only time she did that.
Did you have an audience for that?
I don't remember anybody teasing me about it. So evidently, she got me. I must have run so far away nobody saw it but her. And when we were a kid growing up, Larry Hanks he was a 3rd cousin, and we spent a lot of time playing. We'd go swimming, play a lot of ball. We actually were inside one day in a rainy day. Art and Myrtle, they just let you do it. I think we set up a high jump stand in their living room, and we were put a broomstick across chairs, and we were probably junior high or first year of high school, and we were jumping and hitting that floor. I wonder all the plaster didn't fall off the seat, but it didn't. But it did. But speaking of Art and Myrtle, Harris was his folks' name, and we stopped there one time, took the kids trick or treating, and we got to talking about things. And Art wasn't a very big man, and Myrtle was quite a bit bigger than he was. But I guess when they first got married, every Saturday she fixed bean soup because it was easy to meal to have while she was doing the washing, because it wasn't that easy to wash back then. And he said, I think we had 3 of our kids there, but anyway, he said, I ate bean soup for 20 years before I had nerve enough to tell Myrtle that I didn't like it. And I thought that was really something.
So moving on from the south side, junior high, and then
I went to junior high.
high school.
That was quite different because we had a homeroom teacher, but then you'd go Mrs. Perkins, Mrs. Kelly, Mrs. Perkins, Mrs. Kelly. We had Heidenreich, Mr. Heidenreich was my homeroom teacher, and then Doris Heaton took his place later. But yeah, that was quite different too. Of course, anything that I've ever been used to. And I played basketball and ran track in junior high. We could beat everybody, and this is really strange. We could beat every team we played except Westfield. And Westfield had the biggest. We had a pretty big team, but I mean, I was only 5'4", but we had Larry Kipper moved in. He was about 5'10" or 11, and we just could beat anybody but them, and they beat us 3 times during the season.
Extremely small school too.
Oh yeah, but I remember some of the guys I played against. I had run into them once in a while, and I said, you guys are the only team we couldn't beat in junior high. And anyway, we beat everybody else. But let's see.
Are there particular features about the school at that time you remember?
Oh, it just, of course, kind of seemed pretty big, to me. We were on the north. Well, I take that back. In 7th grade, we were in the old building.
I was going to say, the old building was still...
We were in the 7th grade. We were in the old building. In the 8th grade, we were in the north end of the new building.
Okay.
And I think Mr. Marsh and Mr. Roberts were teachers in 7th grade. I don't think I remember any others. But it was... I think they had salvaged it. They had the tornado. I don't remember when the tornado was, but it wasn't all.
48, I believe.
It wasn't all usable.
Right.
And we had our classes, and then the old gym. In the old gym, I played when I was in high school. I played the last year in the old gym. My dad played the first year in the old gym.
A little bit of beginning and ending of history.
Actually, I was supposed to get to play in the new gym, but they were supposed to get it done like January. They didn't get it finished. And my dad, Richard, he went, they had a 3-year, they had 11 grades in West Union School, where it is now, where the community building is.
Yeah.
And they had a 3-year high school diploma, which my dad got. And I had never seen it till my mother died in 2012. And anyway, they decided he was going to go to college, so he was going to go up to Illinois Wesleyan. So I guess they decided he needed another year of high school. And I had two old maid aunts that lived up on 6th Street where Jim, those guys. My mom just went by the dentist, Tom Deal.
Yeah, oh, deal.
Deal. That's where he had his dentist office where they lived. But anyway, my dad spent his senior year, and another senior year, his senior year, and got his 4-year high school diploma. So he had 2 high school diplomas.
Wow, that's unusual.
Yeah, and I didn't even know it. And anyway, when he first came up here, he knew a lot of guys because from West Union, he wasn't that far from Marshall. He knew a lot of the guys in school. And so the first thing they did was they reported to assembly. And he said, I just reported to assembly. I'd never been, except in the one room school. I'd probably everything in the same room. And he said, and one of his friends would say, hey, Dick, come and go with me. Or come sit with me. And then when the bell would ring to go to class, he'd say, hey, Dick, come and go with me. He said, I'd go to class and the teacher would take the roll and said,
what are you doing?
There he is. I'm Lester Strohm. Well, you don't belong here. Go back to assembly. He said, I spent the first week in assembly. He said, well, every day you graduate. He said, I didn't know you had to have a schedule. Nobody told him. I don't know.
It would be such a different experience.
They didn't have the guy, stuff like they do now. So he was pretty well off, but he did graduate. Trying to think of.
Did you have a particular favorite subject in school that you really liked?
I like math and spelling, I guess. I never was really crazy about English. But, those were my 2 favorite. I kind of wish I would got more interested in history now. I'm older, it's a lot more interesting. But,
was there a particular subject that you did not particularly like?
well, I really liked math until I got in high school. And I think it was more the teacher than not liking it. I didn't have a teacher that explained real well. And I just didn't like it at all. Couldn't wait to get out. I wasn't going to go to college. I already figured that out. I ended up going to the Army for 6 months. Got that over with. And of course, the way it turned out, I got married when I was 19. Probably wouldn't have had to go because Gary was born a year later.
What year did you graduate from high school?
57.
57.
Yeah. Yeah, I played all sports in high school, and they talk about size of football team. When I was started as a junior and a senior, and end to end, our line averaged 141. And when I was a senior, we averaged 142. And we played Charleston, Robinson, Newton, all the big schools. In Paris, they outweighed us like 50 pounds, at least 60 pounds. And I remember Dale McConkey got hit the first quarter of Paris game. He had a knot on his head stuck out like that. He played the whole game, didn't remember anything.
What would be the average now? Do you know?
Oh, they average, I think as short as 4 years later, I don't think they've had a line average less than 180 to 200.
I would think it might even be well over 200.
Yeah, when Mars and Wilson played, I know they was well over 200 average. And I don't think they had a starter less than 190. But that we didn't. Our weightlifting was baling hay, and that was my baling hay and straw. That was my weightlifting. Scooping corn, chopping weeds out of beans, and stuff like that.
Now you mentioned you were married at 19, and what was that young lady's name?
Oh, Mary Gender.
Mm-hmm.
Got married. She graduated on Friday, and we got married on Saturday.
Oh boy.
She was 17. I scared her later. I said, your dad must have really wanted to get rid of you. Because nothing was said, her being too young or anything, but that's the way it was.
So So did you go into the military then, right after?
Right out of high school, I went in, I think I went in August, got out in March. I just had to go 6 months. They have a 6-month program, active. And if you went before you was 18 and a half, you only had 3.5 years in active reserves, and that's all you had to do. So I was at Paris National Guard. But I was lucky. I went to Fort Leonard Wood. And
Lucky?
no, well, and then from there, after Christmas, we went to Fort Ord, California.
That's all right.
I finished our training in Fort Ord, and it's closed now, but we were in heavy weapons infantry, and as soon as we got back, we changed over to a tank company, and that was quite a change. Oh, I want to tell you a little bit about West Union. When I was growing up, we always went to town on Saturday night, and my mom did the shopping, trading. She called it trading, and mother couldn't get that trading. So she traded her cream and
Eggs?
eggs. And Dad went back to a little beer, and us kids went to the movie. And when I was growing up, we had 4 restaurants in West Union, 2 hardware stores, 5 taverns, 2 elevators, 2 pool rooms, 4 filling stations, 1 car dealer, Chevrolet car dealer, and a movie theater. Now we have a library, 1 elevator, 2 taverns.
And
That's all.
you do have a couple of
I'm sorry, we got a beauty shop right there. Beauty shop and a satellite shop. And that's basically all I got.
A lot of contrast in literally
Yeah,
a few years.
And we had our Halloween
Frolics.
frolic there on the Main Street, West Union. And Michael Miller had that supper club there on the south side. I remember Vic Bennett telling when he got out of the Army, he was quite a piano and organ player, and he would go for drinks. He would play on Saturday night, Friday and Saturday night. Of course, he said, it was good enough for me. I'd just have a good time.
Has anyone accumulated pictures of some of those early businesses, I wonder?
They have a West Union calendar that I have failed to get. I think you can get them at the library. They have most of them on schoolhouse and some of the grocery stores and stuff. And then also had Dean Clapfeller's. He had a TV store too there in West Union, right east of Miss Micah Milner's. But
In that group of businesses, though, you do have a funeral home too down there.
and a funeral home. Yeah, I forgot about that one. And at Prest House Funeral Home. Yeah, that's still there.
You do have a lovely park also.
Yeah, that wasn't there when I grew up, and I don't really know when that was started. They dedicated the stage down there to my Uncle Dean.
Oh,
After he had passed away. And Uncle John gave a speech, and he was of course editor of National Wildlife Magazine and stuff, and I'll never forget in this speech, he said, one of the last things he said in this speech, he said that if you didn't know, the Strohm motto is, think big, cheap. I like that. That's good. I told Marlene, I said, boy, it took you about 57 years to figure that out. But I'll never forget him. And then he also said, of course, he'd had some problem with in-laws, kids marrying somebody not getting along. He said, another thing, when you have family pictures taken, and you have a new in-law, make sure they're on the outside of the picture in case they don't work out. He just cut them off. We have got so many in the middle. And some of them you don't want to see again. Especially looking back through pictures.
oh dear.
Oh, I got to tell you this. My dad was telling, he went to number 6 schoolhouse, which was about probably a mile west of where I grew up, and they lived in the river bottom where we were. But he said when he was in like 5th, 6th grade, I don't remember the teacher, I had a woman teacher though, and they had a bunch of 8th graders that were 16, because you had to go to school till you were 16, or 15 or 16. And she said they'd get in trouble, and she'd bring out the switch or the yardstick or whatever she's going to beat them with, and they just take it and break it over her leg and throw it out the door. And he said the next year we had Mr. Berkebile. He said he didn't put up with anything. He said, I was looking at a bug crawl on the floor one day, he whacked me across the back for not paying attention.
Well, certainly discipline sure changed a lot in the, discipline has sure changed a lot.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. That's the end. I don't know how anybody can be a teacher anymore. I don't know if I told you when we got married, May 23rd, 1959.
Okay. In getting married then, did you continue to live in West Union?
Yeah, we lived
or did you move somewhere else?
We live a mile east of West Union, right on the corner. Big brown double two-story house Mike Lindley owned. We had 4 children. Gary, Shannon, Mark, and Sherry. Mark was killed in an automobile wreck in 2005. I was a farmer, and I worked on construction. And Mary Lou went back to school. She graduated in '59. She went back to nursing school in 1978, Lincoln Trail College. Became an RN in '79. Retired from Union Hospital. She had a pretty bad year. The year she had, right before she took her state board, she had breast cancer.
Was she in nursing primarily at Union Hospital? Or?
She started the first 3 years was at Robinson.
Oh, okay.
And then I said, well, if you're going to work full time, you got to make more money. So almost doubled her wages when she moved to Terre Haute, and she worked 3 12-hour shifts. And when she was going through nurses training, because they had 4 kids, and she would average getting to bed at 2 a.m.
Oh, gee.
Get up at 5.
That's not much sleep.
Yeah.
Plus the drive to get there.
Yeah. I remember one time I knew she drove pretty fast going to school, and I saw in the Sunday paper that they were really going to crack down on this 55-mile-an-hour speed limit. So I went to Ironwork that day, and I got home, and she was home. She said, "Well, you're right." I said, "Well, what happened?" She said, "Well, I went through Trimble on the speed limit. I always go through there on the speed limit. But said there were 3 cars ahead of me when I got through, and I passed them all, and the third one was a state cop, and I said I was going at least 80. I was going at least 80.
Oh my gosh.
She said I didn't even wait till he turned the lights on. I just pulled off. So he comes up there and
What's your hurry?
he said, "Now what's your name and registration?" And she gave it to him, and he said, Strohm, do I know your dad?" I said, "No, I don't think you know my dad, but I think you know my husband. He plays poker with you 2 or 3 times a week, probably." Always said I'm supposed to give a ticket to everybody I stop. I'll be back in a minute. So he come back. He wrote her a warning ticket for illegal display of license plates.
She was lucky.
Yeah. Yeah, she's very
Did she slow down a little bit after that?
No, I talked to people and they said, well, I saw your wife and I waved at her and she didn't even wave. And I said, hell, don't feel bad that I was standing on the road one day. I waved at her. She wouldn't even stop and pick me up. Of course, I was kidding about that.
Oh, gee.
But she left our house. Now, she had to go to Union Hospital to work. She never left our house earlier than 20 after 6 or 20 after 5, and always never was late, except they had car trouble one time.
She was moving.
I tried that once when she lost her keys, and I'm going, oh my God, I'm driving 80 almost all the time. I couldn't make it in 40 minutes. And you gotta go through West Terre Haute and Terre Haute?
That was before I-70 probably too, wasn't it?
No, 70 not, but
you went on 40.
She went on 40.
Gee whiz.
Yeah.
Well, you're lucky you didn't have to cash in on an insurance
Oh my
policy.
God. She had 2 deer.
Oh, yeah.
Came through West Terre Haute once, and where that first curve is to go over the grade.
Yeah.
Around the curve, there was this huge accident. There was cars everywhere, police everywhere, but no flagman around the curve. And she said, I went through a space. I knew I was going to hit both sides. I made it. She said, it was a miracle. Just kept on going.
What year did she finally retire then?
Actually, our son got killed in a car wreck in 2005, and she tried to go back to work, and he was a pharmacist at the hospital, and she just couldn't.
So she retired from nursing then in
2005, in December, I think.
So you're obviously still farming?
Oh no.
So you're retired too? then?
Actually, I was in a real bad accident in 2002.
I remember that.
And I decided maybe life was shorter than I thought it was. And I turned the farm over. Well, I pretty well turned the farm over to my son Shannon, and then he got bad health, and he couldn't do it either. So some of them, this one question, modern conveniences. One of the biggest one I thought that affected me was, because we always farm with no cabs and no air conditioning, and dirt and dust, and we lived on the sand prairie, and oh my God, if you're going the wrong direction, you just black. I mean, and then we got cabs and air conditioning, and it just, and they had a radio. I wish I had a radio on the tractor without a cab, but it wasn't like that. And of course, I thought TV was a big thing, especially when they got color TV.
That thing with farming, and I don't even really understand the mechanics of all of it. We've got GPS in cars, but that has become a big part of farming.
See, I didn't have that when I farmed, but I mean, it pretty well drives itself.
It boggles my mind.
That made me think about a story this guy was telling me. We always had narrow front end tractors. And he said, well, we got wide front end. He said, we have half-mile throughs. He said, I can go more plowing. He said, I can sleep from one end to the other. And when that furry wheel comes out of the furry, I wake up and turn around and go back to sleep. And I said, really? Yeah, he said it worked pretty good for a long time until one day I didn't wake up. I plowed crossways across the neighbor's 40-acre field, and said he was not very happy.
I would imagine that's right.
I said, well, you're lucky it wasn't a river
I was going to say, a road.
I said, I can't believe you go to sleep.
So modern conveniences would be, I would say you couldn't live without.
Air conditioning, washer and dryer. I know my wife, but she still hangs clothes out on the line when she
Good fresh air.
can. She smells, just great. But I think in some towns you can't do that. You can
True.
do that if you want to.
Okay, with you retiring really from farming in 2002 and Mary Lou retiring from nursing in 2005, do you have some hobbies and all that?
Well, we did a little traveling. We went to, our son, well, earlier than that, he was doing a postdoctorate in Zurich, Switzerland.
Yeah.
Mary Lou made 3 trips over there. I just made 1, but then we did some traveling. We went to Rome, saw the Vatican, Sistine Chapel. There's so much to see there.
Yeah.
You just can't, we didn't really spend enough time there, but it was a beautiful trip, and we, on our 30th engagement anniversary, we got engaged on Valentine's Day, so
nice.
usually if we did something for anniversary, we did it on Valentine's Day, because the farm was
Pick your date.
May 20. I said, I still can't believe my dad let me get married on May 23rd. Right in the middle of farming, but we met two couples from Australia in New Orleans. We wanted to do something different. Went to a travel agent, and she suggested going to New Orleans on the train. And we got on at Effingham and went to New Orleans, and of course got a place to stay. And the first night we took a tour, and this man picked us up, and there was 2 couples sitting behind us, and I asked them where they were from, and all 4 at once said Australia, and I didn't understand it. And I said, what did they say, Mary? She said, I think they said Australia. And so we got to visiting with them and went out that evening with them, and the next evening with them, because I didn't know anything about Australia, and they hadn't been to the United States that much, and we spent 2 nights together, and the very next year, both couples came to our house and stayed with us for a week.
Wonderful. That's great.
And so then I had to go to Australia then. And we'd gone to the travel agent, and I finally told her, I said, whenever you get a deal to Australia on plane fare and stuff, let me know. And she called, and we went the first time in 92. And the round trip ticket was $1,200 for both of us.
For 2?
For 2. And we stayed 10 days with one couple, and they like our own tour guide. They took us everywhere.
Well, that's great, yeah.
And met all their friends. Never met anybody there that I didn't like. They're the friendliest people I ever saw.
Australians very much are.
And then we went and they lived in Newcastle, which is about 80 miles north of Sydney.
Okay.
And then we flew up from Sydney to Brisbane, where the other couple live, and they flew with us. And we had a party and met all their friends. And then one day, Harry and Betty took us on a sightseeing trip down to the Gold Coast, which would be like Fort Lauderdale, Miami area. On the way down there, I still can't get over this. I had the radio on, and the radio announcer all of a sudden said, and please don't forget our American friends. You know we would be speaking Japanese if it wasn't for them. That was just out of the blue. And I heard it. But they all wanted to know I was like growing up in the 50s with Elvis and all the rock and roll. And it was just marvelous experience. So it was so funny. When Harry and Betty had this party up at Brisbane, of course. For the last 3 days we were going to go to Cairns in the Great Barrier Reef. And I'm kidding Frank, after we spent 10 days with them, and I said, I don't know, Marilyn, I can even get around or take care of ourselves. You guys have pampered us so daggone much. He said, really? Where are you going? I said, we're going up to Cairns. Oh, he said, I know Phil, I can't think of his last name, that lives in Cairns. Just a minute. He just got the phone. He had his number. Hello, Phil. This is Frank McBee. Said, we've got American friends coming up there in about 3 days. I want you to pick them up at the airport, take them to their hotel, and when they get ready to leave, pick them up, take them back to the airport. And that's exactly what they did. We were walking down after we got into Cairns, we were walking down in the airport, and this guy about 6'4" comes meeting us, and he said, "Are you the American couple I'm supposed to pick up?" I guess we are. I don't see any others around. It was just unbelievable. And then while we were in Newcastle, I got Frank knew this guy, his dad had been, I don't know what they'd been in the parliament or something anyway, he was pretty well off. And he somehow or other, he got us on this tugboat in Newcastle Harbor, which they export a lot of grain and coal. And we got to ride on the tugboat, and I got to drive it. Wow. Out in the ocean.
That'd be quite an experience.
And this captain, he had Captain and two in his crew, two 2,500 horsepower engines. And he said, "I don't know who you know, but he said, I'm telling you right now, we do not do this."
I've heard that's a no-no.
So, we just don't do this. So I'm really impressed then because we got to do it, So.
I guess that's some of the enjoyment part about travel, is some of the people you meet.
Oh my gosh, it was just unbelievable.
Did you make it out to the Barrier Reef then?
Yeah, it was beautiful. Took a catamaran out. I mean, water, because it's 1,000 mile long.
Yeah.
And they actually export. One of their big exports was the sand from the Great Barrier Reef to Hawaii. When they'd have storms and lose their beach, they'd export sand to Hawaii.
Did you by any chance take a glass bottom boat or anything down to see some of the underwater?
Well, the catamaran you could see, and then we snorkeled and we got out.
Yeah, okay.
And all that fish are just beautiful.
Amazing.
So beautiful. And they fed us when we got out there. It was just.
Did you get inland in Australia any?
Actually, we asked both couples about going to the outback and said, we do not do that.
Really?
No, I said, well, I guess when we were there first time in '92, there's only 17 million people in Australia at that time.
Small.
And Sydney was 3.5 million. So all their population basically is around the border.
Yeah.
And it's 90% desert.
Yeah.
And the Ayers Rock was a big place for tourists.
We did go out there.
You did go to Ayers Rock? Well, they wouldn't take us because they'd turned it over to Aborigines, and they wouldn't take us there.
I know it's considered very much of a religious pilgrimage type of site for the Aborigines.
And then, about the time we were there, they had voted in their parliament to give if you were at least an 8th Aborigine, $10,000. Just said it just about broke our country. And he said, and we'd go to like in Sydney, when we go by a city park, drink Bueno, you could imagine drunks laying around like you wouldn't believe because they had that $10,000. But we ended up going over there twice. I'd like to go again, but it's just too far. It's 13.5 hours from LA to Sydney.
Say that ride in the plane is a long.
I couldn't take it anymore. But it was.
We know that's the whole thing of air travel is less fun than it used to be.
Well,
You've got all the security and the luggage mess.
And that's
and the crowds.
another thing
it's just not fun.
Yeah. And Marilyn and I, we go to Florida and drive usually. Probably should fly, but we still drive. And
you need a car when you get down there anyway.
And she golfs and we golf together. And we took a cousin from Michigan went with us this last spring. He's 83 years old. He lost his wife last year. She's had Alzheimer's for 30 years. Took care of her in home. So I just thought I'd ask him, because I knew he liked to golf too, and he never got hardly to do it at all, taking care of her, because he fed her with a feeding tube for the last 12 years. And of course I know she wouldn't have lived that long in any other place, because he just took care of her like you wouldn't believe. But anyway, he went with us. He'd get up and walk 2 or 3 miles before we get out of bed. I mean, you would never guess he's 83. We played golf, not every day, but 4 days out of the 7 we
played 18.
That walk's probably what kept him going. and
Oh,
helped.
yeah, he just, and we'd go to the pool, they had a basketball goal there, and the basketball, we'd play basketball.
Where in Florida do you go?
Actually, we went to, it's right close to Doral, where Doral's Trump Golf Course is. It's
Okay.
northwest of Miami,
Yeah.
about 30 miles probably.
That'd be Okeechobee area?
No, we didn't get that far. We were just west of the Miami airport,
Okay.
is where Doral is, and we stayed at a Marriott right next to Doral. They shuttled us into Doral. Damien, this clubhouse at Doral, I've never seen so much marble in my life. All the stairways, the counters, the upright to hold the counter up. I mean, and they let us just walk anywhere we want to. I mean, I can't, and it was like a hotel. I can't imagine what it costs to stay there. It would have to be. But we go see it, and they just let us walk out there on the golf course like we belong there, you know. It's fun.
That's a nice place to be in, especially January, February.
Yeah,
wintertime.
yeah. We were there in March, and we had really good weather. I think it rained one day, but no
That's
big
one
deal.
question I usually ask about everyone as we kind of wrap up is, say when you were in Australia, and someone asked you about Illinois, Marshall, where's that little place, or what's that all about? What would you tell them and why they might want to visit here?
Well, I don't think they asked me that.
I'm
I just
saying-
want to know where Illinois was,
Yeah.
basically. I tell them, and of course, I think we've got a really, really nice town, and they're improving it all the time. We've got a nice library, and these murals are really going to bring a lot of tourist attraction, I think, don't you?
I think so, yeah.
And I don't know, it just seemed like it was just a nice town. I never lived here, but
Well, I guess I would include not only Marshall, but the whole Clark County area,
Yeah.
including West Union
Yeah,
and where you are.
everybody asked us, said, well, when are you guys going to move to Marshall? And Marley said, when they take me out feet first on a gurney, I hope. I mean, we just love the country, the quiet. And Susie Carey, you know, most Meredith Field lives up there across from the Dairy Queen. She said, how do you stand that quiet? I said, how the hell do you stand that noise? I mean, the street you live on wouldn't be so bad, 'cause you don't have the squalling of tires. And
No,
all the
not too
horn.
much, but there is a lot of traffic on 6th and 7th.
But it is quiet.
Yeah, it's quiet.
They're not rocking off their mufflers and stuff like that.
And I guess that's the thing about Florida. We go down to Pompano Beach and traffic,
Pompano Beach?
Pompano Beach.
Yeah,
which is just,
we went up there to golf.
yeah.
We stayed there in Fort Lauderdale a couple of years ago, and that was really reasonable. I mean, we played for
But the
$30.
traffic keeps getting heavier and heavier
Yeah,
each year.
Yeah, but it was neat. I had an Equinox then, and the OnStar, and it's so nice. And just tell them just put in the address to where you want to go, and just take you there. Anyway, we just left the golf course, and we tried to see this movie, and I can't remember what it was. And I punched it in, and we arrived at this building, and I couldn't see what it was, and there happened to be a policeman come by, and I flagged him down. I said, you know, our GPS took us here. We're trying to find this movie theater. He said, well, you're here, but you're in the back side of it.
So they let you in the back door?
No, we just drove around the building, and there it was, of course, because I didn't have any idea we were right there, but most of the time it did a real good job.
Sometimes though, that can steer you astray too.
One time we went down to Princeton, Indiana. Granddaughter had a volleyball tournament down there, and all of a sudden it said, "You arrived at your destination." Hell, there wasn't anything in sight. I said, "No, we haven't." That's the only time that ever happened.
Les, it's been a real pleasure visiting with you.
Oh,
And I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to do that for us. And this really becomes a part of, we say, it's history, because maybe not so much today or tomorrow, but someone down the line is going to want to look, I didn't know that about Les, or find out some interesting things.
yeah.
So I really appreciate it.
I tried to write some things down. I just think she gave that to me last Wednesday, and I thought, I better write some of this down.
Well, as I said earlier, you know, there's no written script, nothing that's firm. It has to go a direction, but just let people tell their own story.
Yeah.
And we appreciate hearing it.
I went home in '69. We lived in an old farmhouse right east of it, and 10th anniversary, I thought I'd get Mary the blueprints for a new home.
Ooh.
And so we figured out what home we wanted, and I thought, well, hell, I might as well go to Federal Land Bank and see if I can borrow the money. If they say no, we'll just wait a while. Well, they said yes, so we went ahead and built it. It was a pre-cut home, and of course I had enough cousins and uncles that they could help get it up. I finished the inside, and it was funny when we were doing the roof. Uncle Dean, Uncle Mac, my dad, Jack and Jerry and me and Scotty, and then my 3 boys were up there. And they weren't too old, so Jerry was born in '60, Shannon in '63, and Mark in '64. And Grandma come over there, she's 91. She pulls up and looks up there, you get them boys down off that river. I said, Grandma, if anybody's gonna fall off, it'll probably be one of us old people. It won't be those boys. They brought us shingles, saved a million steps.
That didn't get her off the ground though, did it? I mean, she was still upset, I'll bet.
Oh yeah, but you know, she's 91. We'd be working over there at the house, finishing the inside, and she would bring a pot of soup. Drive her car over there and put a pot of soup on the stove up there and make an apple pie and leave it for us at 91. And the year she died, I think she was 92. She went out to Uncle Max and made gardens the day she died. At home.
So you've got some long-term genes back there, and I guess maybe I do too. My mother lived to 98.
Yeah, my mom lived to 100.
I know.
I didn't think I'd have a heart attack. She never had any heart trouble, but I've had a heart attack. So.
Well, again, I appreciate it so much. It's been great visiting with you and kind of comparing